everyone, welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Wednesday, May 6th, 2026, and this is episode 326. I'm Carol, also known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry, and I live east of Vancouver in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada, where it is currently cool, overcast, and a bit windy, which is a complete turnaround from what it's been all week. We had temperatures in the high 20s, maybe even the low 30s for most of last week. Everyone was in their shorts. We had all the fans going, the air conditioner kicked in a few times. It was like the middle of summer, except that it cooled down at night. So I don't really mind a cool day today. I actually started out in shorts and have since put on some jeans and a pair of socks. That's how much the temperature has decreased since this morning. But it's just not right to be having summer temperatures at the beginning of May. It does not bode well for our water supply this summer, especially since we didn't have as big a snowpack over the winter as we should have, and it's all melting now, so not a very good situation. However, not much we can do about it. So I hope you've all had a good couple of weeks since we last chatted and that you've had time to work on some of your favorite crafts. I thought I didn't have that much to show you today, but as I started making my show notes and gathering items, I realized I actually do have quite a few things to share with you. So this might be a good time to hit pause. If you haven't already, maybe go get something to drink and a project to work on. And when you come back, let's chat about some knitting and spinning, shall we? So, first thing I'm going to show you is a finished project, and I didn't even show you this as a work in progress. In fact, the last time I spoke to you, it wasn't even on my radar. But about a month ago, my mom was down visiting, staying at my sister's place, and when I went to see her, she was just so devastated. She said, "Oh, Carol, I've lost that little shawl that you made me." It was the Lady Bertram shawlette by Wendy D. Johnson, and I can't remember exactly when I knit it for her, but I'll put a picture up here, and I'll put the year I made it there on the screen so you can see. So she wore it all the time, tucked into her jacket. And I guess one day she went to put it on to go out and realized she didn't have it. So she thought about when she last wore it, retraced her steps, inquired in a couple places, but it's disappeared. So chances are she dropped it somewhere and someone picked it up. So I hope they're getting some good use out of it. So with Mother's Day coming up, I thought that maybe what I would do is try and replace it with something as similar as I could. So I went stash diving and I found some very, very, very deep stash, a merino silk blend from Cherry Tree Hill called Super Sock Silk in the Copper Canyon colorway. So it's not the same, but it has sort of the same, little bit of the same vibes. And I thought the silk content would make a nice shawlette, make it drape a little bit more, or make it drape a little bit. So I'll show you the whole shawl in a minute. First, I have a tale of woe. So I honestly just sort of skimmed the pattern for the cast on instructions for how to do the I forget what you call it, a garter tab cast on, and then I looked to see how many stitches I needed to increase to in this stockinette section before adding the lace edging. And I had looked at the picture of my mom's, and I had it in my head that this was a traditional triangular shawl, meaning that you increase every second row on either side of the center spine, and then every second row on each edge. And so I proceeded, and I was mostly monogamous on this. I really wanted to get it done well in advance of when I would see her. And happily knit away till I reached the correct number of stitches for the border. And then I weighed what I had, and I thought I could get away with, I think it was 6 more rows, I think, which would give me enough stitches to do an extra repeat of the lace. So I did that. Then I went to start the lace, and I realized that I had a problem. The Lady Bertram shawlette is not a traditional triangular shaped shawl. It is an elongated triangular shaped shawl. What I should have been doing was increasing every row on the border, the edging, not every second row. And what I would have ended up with had I done that was a more shallow, wider shawl. However, I looked at the calendar, and I looked deep inside me to see if I had the heart to take it all the way back and start over. And I decided that I was just going to proceed as I'd gone. I thought I was knitting a traditional triangular shaped shawl anyway, so why not just make that happen? So that's what I did, and I figured out I had to adjust the border a little bit along the edges, which was not a big deal, just to account for one less stitch every row, or every for not adding an extra stitch every row. And I made it happen. You can see it's just a really simple, let's see if I can find something to put behind this that you can see it better. Yeah, just a very, very simple lace repeat. But a really pretty little shawl. Now, problem number 2 was I should not have added those extra rows because I did not have enough yarn to do a second repeat of chart A. So the border is, I think it's 8 rows shorter than it's supposed to be, but nobody knows that, but hey, you and me. And, you know, it's not going to change anything. Now, I would have preferred, I think it would have been nice to have it just a little bit longer this way and maybe a little bit shorter this way. But it's not like it's terrible. It's perfectly doable. I have a number of triangular, regular, like traditional triangular shaped shawlettes that I have used like this numerous times. So it's really not that big a deal. I even, in making my decision on whether to continue or whether to frog back, I even took out some traditional triangular shawls and some elongated ones and compared them. And there wasn't a huge difference between the length here and the width here. And so that went into my decision making. So yeah, so I am going to, now that I've shown you, get this ready, wrapped up for Mother's Day. Just gonna lay it out here where it's flat. I have one more finished project, and that is a pair of socks. These are my Luna Moth socks. This was part of one of the Lepidoptera Yarn and Fiber Club shipments from Fiber Nymph Dye Works a few years ago. This is a sport weight base. It's the Traveler base. And this is the Luna Moth colorway. So it came with this self-striping skein and then a coordinating mini in this brown and the gold here. So as you can see, I did the heels and toes in the brown, added this on the cuff. They knit up pretty quickly. It's only 56 stitches on I think I used a 2.25 millimeter needle. So it's surprising what 8 less stitches, what a difference it makes as far as getting some length out of it. Obviously too, the yarn gives you a little bit more length per inch than a fingering weight yarn with a smaller needle. So happy with those. So those are my 2 finished projects for this episode. I have lots of works in progress. Even though it's definitely cooler today, I was finding it a little bit warm with the window closed. So I've opened it again, and so you may hear a little bit of ambient noise, maybe airplanes or people chatting or cars driving by, things like that. So hopefully that's not too annoying. So, of course, when you finish a pair of socks, you need to cast on another. And as I think I mentioned last episode, one of my items on my to-do list this year is to knit up the rest of my club colorways from Fiber Nymph Dye Works. So I have 3 more. I think 2 are from the Lepidoptera Club and 1 is from the Backyard Bird Watchers Club. So I have cast on another butterfly inspired colorway, and it is the Orange Sulfur butterfly. Actually, I have my paperwork from the club, so there you go. You get to see what it looks like. And the underside looks like that. And one reason why I wore this top for this podcast is because I was working on these the other day and went, hey, I matched my clothes. So as you can see, this is a really fun, bright colorway with this neon green and bright yellow, orange, peachy color. This is the Bedazzle base, which is a merino, nylon, and stellina base. I don't think you can really see it sparkling. I hope the lighting's not too bad. I didn't really want to turn on any lights. I have a light here that I just felt like it kind of blew everything out. So hopefully it's not so bad. Put it this way, it's the best I can do. It's sitting in front of a window here. So I do have 1 sock ready for the heel and just a couple more stripes and I'll be ready for the heel on this one. And the yarn that came with it is this brown, and then also this orange. So this orange is just a little bit paler than what's in here. So I think I'm gonna do, can't remember if I decided to do orange for the heels or not. You'll know next time. Depends where my striping ends up. Yeah, I think that's what I decided, because the next color up on the striping is this light brown, well, gray, light gray kind of color. So I think I'll do orange here, and then I'll save that for the toes. Most likely. I'm trying to see if there are colorway names for the yeah, just bright orange and soft brown are the colorway names for that. So yeah, you can see these are working up easily. I'm back to fingering weight now, so this is 64 stitches on a 2mm needle, and I'm going to do traditional heel flap and gussets on these. And I thought I would carry on. I had put my Luna Moth socks in this bag because the colors seemed to go and they had butterflies on it, and I decided to carry on with the same bag for this pair too. And while we're, oh, did I say one of my, I'm not sure if I said this already or not, one of my goals for the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Keep It Simple Make Along this year is to use up all of my club colorways. I have a feeling I said this already. I have 2 more after this, one from the Lepidoptera Club and one from the Backyard Bird Watchers Club. If I said that already, sorry for the repetition. Sometimes it's hard to remember what you've actually said, or maybe you have just been thinking about. To carry on in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works vein, another project on my goals list for this year is to knit this Unwinding Hours shawl with some hand spun that I spun from Fiber Nymph Dye Works mixed BFL fiber. So, and it was the This Day We Fight colorway. So I started this, I think back possibly even in maybe even January. I know I've had it going for a while. The yarn, I had 2 different, 2 braids of the same colorway. I think I spun one either end to end the whole way or split one in half and spun them end to end, but I do know that I broke the other braid, I think, into maybe 4 and did a fractal spin. So it's kind of stripey as it's knitting up. But it ended up being quite fine. So it's like a lace weight yarn. So it's taking a while to work up, where the original Unwinding Hours shawl was done, I think, in worsted, maybe even, sport weight. So I have to do a lot more rows to get it to the right size. And honestly, I don't even know what the right size is. I'm feeling like I could potentially bind off now. It alternates between sections of stockinette and a lace pattern. And again, does that help? No, that doesn't help there. Well, that's the best I can do. And then there's a row of purl pumps that separates each band. So you can knit as many as you like. And then the plan is to knit a few rows of garter stitch before binding off. You can, the choice is you can either do that and have a straight edge shawl, or you can have your last section be lace, bind it off, and then you can shape it with, you know, points and things. But I decided I wanted this one to be straight. So I am feeling like we're getting to the point where I think it would be quite a generous shawl as is. And you can see as it's working up, the striping's getting narrower and narrower, as is the case with sort of striping yarn and a shawl. So I believe, see, my dilemma here is that I started out with 240 grams, and I think I have just over 100 now. So I want, if I'm going to bind off, I want there to be enough left to do another project. Maybe, I was thinking maybe a little semicircular shawlette. So that's kind of stalled because I'm trying to make that decision. So I'm not always good at decision making, especially when I can't really tell exactly how big this is going to be. What I might do, what might make the most sense, is to put half the stitches on another needle, kind of lay it out, get a sense of how big it's going to be pre-blocking, and then maybe guesstimate after blocking and see if it's going to be a size I think is good. I'm kind of leaning that way. I think it would be fine at this size without being, you know, too big or too small. So that's what I'm looking for, that Goldilocks weight. I have another pair of socks right over here. I did mention last episode that I was going to cast on the Tits Up socks by Nancy Wheeler of the Knit Sip Happy podcast. This is the first of her April breast cancer awareness inspired socks. I think she has 4 or 5 out now. So the yarn I'm using is from Lily and Pine. It's the Daylily sock, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon. Oh, and it's the Wild Rose colorway. So I don't know if it's blowing out a little bit there. You can see there's little blips of like bright green in it. And I think I will, oh, and it came with a 20-gram mini. I'm just gonna grab a sock blocker from my Luna Moth socks and slip it onto a sock blocker so that you can see the patterning better. This is a 6-row repeat with only 2 that really have any patterning, so these have been quite pleasant to work on. Not too much thinking. There you go. And then the back is just plain. I'm not super happy with my 1x1 ribbing. It actually doesn't look as bad stretched out here on the sock blocker. I'm more either 1x1 twisted rib kind of girl or usually a 2x2 rib. And I know I'm not the only one who has an issue with the knit stitches just not looking quite as tight and neat and tidy as they could with 1x1 ribbing. And I know that there are ways to fix it out there. I just have not taken the time to really investigate, especially on a pair of socks. Like I say, once you wear them, it kind of stretches out anyway, and that part's gonna be under my pant leg also, so I'm not that too terribly upset about it. But as I was knitting them, I was like, these don't look quite as nice as they could, but that's okay. So yeah, I've got these on the go and enjoying those. Just gonna tuck them back in my bag. This one's one that I made a number of years ago. I think it's really pretty. And just checking my notes, I have one more work in progress. And it's another that I've kind of stalled on. Here, I'm gonna take another sip of tea and then I'll show it to you. I just realized I've been using my little row counter as I knit these socks, so I don't want to lose track of where I am. I better put that back in there. Last episode I was really excited because I had cast on the Countdown Cardi by Skenanigans. Now again, I'll show you. Sorry it's black and white, but it's a lot cheaper to print in black and white than color. It's what I tend to do. I do enjoy having a paper pattern, but I try and keep the ink costs down. So for this, I am using my Yarn Ink Advent from last year. And again, I'll put a photo or video in here of that collection, all laid out from days 1 to 24. So I started with day 24 and have been working my way in from the cuff to the, oh, I realized I'm, for some reason, partway through a row on here. Oh, I know why, because I've been knitting in the new yarns as I get there, and I'm not there yet. Okay, hang on. I've got a whole basket of yarn here I have to reach over and get. So, I'm up to color 9. Just don't want to lose stitches. So you start from the cuff and you work your way in. I think I had just about finished the sleeves the last time I showed it to you, or maybe I had even started the body. But you can see I've worked my way across the body. It's all in reverse stockinette, so I don't want to put my arm in there in case, well, it should be okay. Sleeve, and then there's a slipped stitch that runs along the top for the shoulder. I don't want to go in too far and get the stitches off my needle, but that's the gist of it. And I chose my sizing based off of the Jethro cardigan that I had crocheted and knit by Tanis Lavallee, aiming for it to be about the same size and shape. Now, my dilemma now is that I have reached the end of what is supposed to be the shoulder for my size, and I have been knitting to gauge. It is the right gauge. However, if you look at this one, you can see that the shoulder goes quite a ways up here. And then there's quite a generous back area. In fact, the back between the shoulders is supposed to be this times 2. So if I put that here, I guess technically that works. My only concern is that then you knit a really wide band that goes all the way around. And I just feel like I almost need more shoulder and less band. So I'm tempted to carry on as I am for a little bit more to bring this shoulder area closer together and knit less around. That would be more similar to the Jethro. The only thing is that I have a limited amount of these colors on this section, because you are going all the way from the front all the way like from my front here all the way around to the back. So I can only get 4 rows out of that. And so that is limiting the amount of yarn I have then to do the center back section. Although because it's half as wide, I do have more yarn to play with. My only concern is that the striping will be, or the blending will be wider in the center back than in this section. But it's wider on the sleeve than that section also, and that doesn't bother me. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. So it's another one of those projects that is sitting, waiting for my decision. I do love how it's knit up. Like the colors, just they blend so subtly. Especially with that garter, or with the reverse stockinette. Like it is pretty. And then here's the yarn for the band. And one of the things too that I have to remember is that the instructions say that you can work some rows in the center back with your main color if you don't have enough yarn to get to center back with your minis. Sorry, I can hear my neighbors talking, and I'm talking to you, but I'm half listening to what's going on out there. So if I seem a little distracted, that's because I was. So yeah, anyway, I think I'm going to carry on and do a little bit more length for the shoulder seam, because it is an off the shoulder, it's a drop shoulder. So if it's sitting, say here, it's not as bad as I thought, but I do know there's a big area here that I feel like it's too much. So TBD, to be determined. Hopefully by the time I chat with you next time, I'll have figured that out. So again, I need to kind of put my needle with this so I don't lose it. And I've been, as I use my yarns, I've been storing them in the little bags that they come in. So I have gotten to color 10 on the one side. I'm knitting them concurrently, and then I have 3 more rows of color 9 to do on the one I showed you. So maybe that's, trying to think if I'm supposed to do one more section on with that color anyway. I'll have to double check, but anyway, I am enjoying it. It's just, you know, more or less just plain knitting, except at the bottom where you do work a mock rib, like a sideways rib. Oh, I lost some stitches here. Had a feeling that was going to happen. So that's at the bottom. So it's just alternating rows of knitting and purling, but you're knitting back and forth that way. Very cool. I'm really hoping that when it's all said and done that it fits how I want it to, because I could see myself getting a lot of use out of that. All right, that is it for knitting works in progress. I do have a spinning work in progress. You might be saying, hey, I thought you were gonna be working on the traveler cowl. And I was using hand spun that I showed you last week. I cast it on, I started working, and I think when I showed that hand spun yarn to you last week, actually let me just grab it so that you, in case you weren't watching last week, you'll know what I'm talking about. Hang on a second, it's just over here. So I wound it up, but this is a combo spin I did with a Targhee silk something blend. I don't have the tagger here. I showed it to you last week in any case. And my idea was to knit a traveler cowl with it. But when I started knitting with it, as I mentioned last episode, just with the way these plied up, I don't know if they're any spots that are the same 3 plies together as another. And I just felt like there wasn't enough distinction between the sections to really show it off. Now, granted, I did not knit for very long before I made that decision. But what I thought is that this might be better off to be used in a, what's it called? The Shift, I think it's Shifty, and the Shift Cowl. They're both by Andrea Mowry, the patterns. And I thought this would be nice with a light yarn. So this would be a background, this would be the contrast color work. This might be too light, but this is sort of the idea to put those together. I think that would make this show off a lot better. So I've scrapped my idea for the Traveler cowl in this yarn, but I am spinning something I think will work much better for it. So it's some Bramble Ridge merino tussa silk that I purchased, I don't know, a couple months ago. You can probably see the sheen on that from the silk. So this is Bramble Ridge, relatively local dyer. This is the Canopy colorway. And then I purchased at the same time the Forest Floor colorway, and I right from the beginning thought these would be beautiful spun together. So this is the second half of the fiber. I've already spun the first half. It's on my wheel right now, and so I am going to ply these two together, do another combo spin. Now this one I just split in two lengthwise. Whoops, I think I jiggled you there. I split this in two lengthwise and I'm spinning them end to end. This one I split into 4 lengthwise, spinning end to end, and so it'll be like a fractal spin when it's done. And this, I'm still spinning fairly thin. I'm just trying to find an end to show you, but this one I was able to make it a little bit thicker than usual. And so I think plied together, I'm hoping for a border decay, which is what the pattern calls for, I believe. So I'm super anxious to see these plied together. I think it's just gonna be beautiful. So totally enjoying that spin. That's all I did yesterday was work on this because I was enjoying it so much. Sadly, I think I'm not going to be able to work on this now until next week again. Maybe tonight, you never know. But yeah, I'm just so excited to see it come together. I closed my window again. I have several of my neighbors right outside my window here having a conversation. I was finding myself distracted again. Not that I can hear what they're saying, it's just, it's competing for my attention. So, yeah, that is all of my knitting and spinning goodness for this week. So just a quick update on life. Not a whole lot going on, just the usual kinds of things. As I mentioned, it was quite warm, so we were enjoying the summer weather. We had our unit pressure washed last week, so everything's nice and spick and span. Had my summer and winter tires exchanged, so I'm all set for the warmer season now. Didn't even need the winter tires this year. We didn't really have, I think we had a light dusting of snow one morning and I missed it because I was still asleep. So that's, yeah, I didn't really need to do that, but how do you know? You got to be prepared. We're just waiting on all of our garden plants and like baskets and things until the week after next, because we're going to be away the next 2 weekends, and I didn't want to have to worry about having someone come and water. So we are heading up tomorrow evening to our family cabins. We are going with my oldest sister and her husband, and then we're meeting some cousins up there, and so we're going to get things opened up for the seasons. That means just, tidying up cabins. I mean, we clean them in the fall when we leave, but of course things, dust and such gathers over the winter. But the main thing is that we have to get the water going. We have a spring that we draw water from, but it tends to pose some challenges some years, and we are actually, as a family, kind of brainstorming ideas for how to improve that system. But hopefully everything goes okay this coming weekend, because we are going up the following weekend. It's our Victoria Day long weekend here, and we'll have Friday off, so it'll be an extra long weekend. And we're going to be up there with our older son and his wife, and I imagine my mom will come out and stay with us too. So this weekend we're just going to stay in town at my mom's. It's just simpler, because if we don't have water, it just adds an extra complication. She only lives about 10 miles or 17 kilometers from the cabins, so that makes it nice and easy. One couple that's coming, it's my cousin's son and his wife, around the same age as our kids, and he hasn't been there before to get things going, so he wants that experience, which is great. We need our next generation knowing how things work, and so we'll be giving him a little lesson, and he can see how things get done every year. I think that's about it, except for something good. So as far as episodes go, I'm hoping to record again in a couple of weeks. We'll just see how life goes. There always seems to be something going on. Something good. So as I had mentioned last episode, starting last Friday, Cameron was going to start taking every Friday off and go down to working 4 days a week. So we decided on that first Friday that we would go on a little adventure. So if you've been watching for a while, I would have shown this to you after Christmas. It was a gift from my sister. I got this box called Guess Where Tours. And inside were a series of envelopes. This is the Taste Trail theme or itinerary, but I guess there are others. And you got an envelope before you go. There's a booklet that tells you everything you need to know. And then before you leave, you open your first stop and you find out where you're going. And then once you finish at your first stop, you open for the second stop, the third stop, and the fourth stop. Now, before you go from the information in here that your road trip involves I think it's a charming small town, I think is how they worded it, a family farm, a winery, and some sort of park. So we knew the gist of it. What we didn't know is where we were going. Although Cameron did know, because he was the driver, and he looked the night before. They recommend you check to make sure that there aren't any, conditions that have arisen that means you can't go to this place or that place, so that you can plan accordingly. So our first stop was a place called Fort Langley. If you're local, you'll know where that is, and it's they call it the birthplace of BC. There used to be well, there still is a Hudson's Bay Company fur trading fort there. They have restored the fort, and it's like a living history attraction now. But the town itself is right along the river, right along the Fraser River, and it's very quaint. Lots of antique shops and coffee shops and things like that. And so they recommended in the little booklet some of the shops. I'm assuming that they are probably pay for advertising for this trip planner thing. And so we went and had grabbed a cup of tea, and there's a cafe that's also a bookshop, so we enjoyed looking through there, and just walked along by the river, and then there is a new yarn shop in Fort Langley, just opened I think a month or two ago, so of course I had to add that to the itinerary. It is called the Woolly Bulldog Fiber Supply. There wasn't much fiber, it was mainly yarn, but I had a nice chat with the owner, and they are planning to bring in more fiber. But I, of course, had to buy a souvenir skein. When my sister gave this to me for Christmas, she gave me some money to put towards some of the activities or treasures that I came home with, and also a gas card. So that came in handy, of course, especially with the price of gas these days. So I did buy this sock yarn. You can see the sky designs, and this is a classic sock, which is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon blend, and this is the summer solstice colorway, and then the little mini is midnight blue. So I am tempted to cast those on really soon. You know what it's like. Your latest purchase is your favorite purchase. And yes, I got lots of gorgeous yarn back there, and I bought I have souvenir skeins sitting on there too, but I'm really tempted to cast these on. We'll see. Another thing that I did was go to a little chocolate shop, and they had a lot of lesser known, I think some imported candies is how I would put it. Probably a lot from the UK, and some things I recognize that I hadn't had in years. But I just limited myself to, I bought 4 chocolates. The chocolates were just beautiful, and I've only eaten one, if you can believe it. That was last Friday. But look at the cute little donut one. This is a lemon mousse or something. That's a nut one. And then the one I ate was like a creme brulee chocolate. I keep forgetting about them. I put them in my pantry, and I keep thinking, oh, I'll have one after, in the evening, sometime after dinner with my after dinner tea. And then I forget about it. So I really should eat them before they're not fresh anymore. So stop number 2, we ended up going, they had a number of farms. It was kind of around lunchtime. They give you a recommended time to spend in each location, and we kind of overstayed in Fort Langley, and as we were getting ready for lunch, so I opened up both the second and the third envelope to see where the places were located, and if we might swap them out time-wise. And what it turned out is in the last 3 envelopes, rather than like a single destination, they give you several suggestions. And so what we ended up doing was, one of the suggestions in the second envelope was a like a plant nursery. And so we ended up just stopping there and walking through the gardens, and or the outside things, and they had a nice area with, how a lot of garden shops have lots of cool stuff in them. Things you can hang up in your garden, or fountains and mobiles and signs and all of that stuff. So we had a good fun looking through there. And then what we decided to do for the third stop, rather than go to one of the places in here that we had already gone to, several of their suggestions we'd already been to, we decided to look up other wineries in the region that we hadn't gone to. And we found a place called Glass House Winery, and drove over there, did a wine tasting. Happened to have the owner serve us, so it was very, very educational and interesting listening to her story. And then stayed and had some lunch, and then we headed for our final stop. And again, they gave us several suggestions, and one of which was to go to the pier at White Rock. So White Rock is a community right on the ocean, and I hadn't been there for years. And it's so funny because in the description of it here, they actually tell you why it's called White Rock. I have not ever once in my life thought about, why is White Rock called White Rock? And yeah, you guessed it, there's a white rock there, which I guess the story in here is that like prehistory, it used to be white with bird poop, and it stood out as a landmark for sailors and First Nations too, I would assume. Now they paint it every few years. So I did get what we ended up doing is walking along. There's like a walkway leading up to the pier. We grabbed some ice cream and went for a walk. So we passed the White Rock on the way. So I'll put a picture here. And then when we were on the pier, it's the longest pier. Can't remember if it's in the world or in Canada. I'll put the information here too. Sorry, I should have remembered to look at this ahead of time. Anyway, while we were on the pier, we overheard somebody mentioning seeing a whale, and sure enough, we could see a whale spouting every so often. So I've got a couple of videos of it I'll put in here so you can see. So that was really cool because I don't know the last time I saw a whale, and it was just feeding, I assume. We're not sure what kind of whale it was. Maybe a gray whale is my guess, but I don't really know. I know it wasn't an orca. So anyway, we kind of had to hightail it back to the car because we'd only paid for an hour parking. And we had also planned that to make it a full-on day and evening, we had a gift card from our younger son and his wife from Christmas for a local restaurant. So we had made reservations for that. So we came home, we stopped at Costco on the way, grabbed a few groceries, and then stopped at home, dropped them off, and then headed out to dinner. So it was just a lovely, lovely way to spend Cameron's first Friday off. And we've got the next 2 are going to be spent up at the cabin, so that's going to be equally as lovely. So I think we can get used to this pretty quickly. I think we're really going to enjoy having that extra day together a week. All right, I can feel a little trickle of perspiration dripping down here, so I gotta maybe open that window again. But I had to do that, it was tickling. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I never think to say, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. And I hope to be back again chatting with you in another couple of weeks. So take care until then, and enjoy all your crafting. Bye.